lands are more desolate than I imagined. How could anyone have ever lived here?
The Last of Us Part 2 is probably the single most divisive video game ever made. It's so divisive that I don't even know if I like it or not. By far, the most impressive aspect of Last of Us 2 is that people are still talking about it. Almost a year after release, and we're still rage debating over whether or not the game is some god-given masterpiece or whether it's a Bubsy 3D level piece of garbage. And this was the one thing that I hated about this discourse, because it didn't seem like there was a lot of conversation happening with this game. People much preferred to just yell their opinion at each other instead of actually arguing. A lot of the time it didn't feel like there was a lot of conversation. Otherwise, business as usual on internet.com. As for me, there are parts of this game that I genuinely like, but there's also a number of missteps that just didn't work for me. Now, I don't intend to piss anyone off with this, regardless of your opinion, I just want to give my own insight. I know this game is irrelevant now because we have the attention span of goldfish huffing gasoline, but we really gotta talk about these goldfish huffing all the gasoline right now. Wait, what were we talking about? Let's start with the game's promotional material. The trailers made it look like Joel and Ellie back in another whirlwind adventure this summer in theaters today. Except this summer, which is later than today. Son of a bitch. Of course, in the real game, Joel gets his skull caved in with a fucking golf club within an hour of starting, and this cutscene doesn't exist. Well, it does, but it's Jesse instead, so nobody cares. To this day, I'm still not clear on whether or not that was a deliberate misdirection like MGS2 or something, or if they just had trouble bringing the story somewhere on the Joel and Ellie back in action premise. The latter would be understandable, but the former is a little lulzy, because it doesn't work as well for a game like Last of Us as it does in a game like MGS2, which is all about information control, half-truths, echo chambers, and manufacturing consent.
You accepted the fiction we've provided, obeyed our orders, and did everything you were told to.
Okay, but in all likelihood, they almost definitely just changed the direction of the story during development. But the reasons notwithstanding, I still sympathize deeply with why people were upset. The trailers showed off a bunch of hyped up scenes with Joel that simply weren't in the game because they decided that that wasn't the story that they wanted to tell. And I deeply respect artistic integrity. They are allowed to do that, and to deny them that right is to fundamentally misunderstand art. But at the same time, you cannot deny that they had created an image of the game that was not necessarily accurate to the end product. And whether you like the end product or not, I don't think it's unreasonable to be frustrated with that. Maybe not flip desks and burn shit frustrated, but frustrated. And that's not even to say that Subversion is automatically bad. Even if you do it right, you're gonna piss people off. MGS2 was all like, you play as Snake on Metal Gear Boat. But then the actual game was 7% Snake and 93% gay anime Raiden. Ooh, people were pissed. However, that game actually had a thematic justification for that subversion because it operates on a meta-narrative level by playing into its themes of carefully crafted and curated misinformation to manufacture a particular narrative. And in the long run, it's harder to get away with that with a game like The Last of Us because it doesn't have those themes. But for better or worse, Joel gets killed by Abby, and now Ellie must go on a revenge quest and kill 1 billion plus people to learn a lesson about why killing 1 billion plus people is bad. That's the thing a lot of people don't like, the way this game explores the destructive cycle of violence. I think in my case, I just feel like there are other games that have explored these themes better. There was this big deal about how everyone you kill has a first name and their friends scream it out whenever they get killed. But if you want me to feel bad for the fictional characters that I'm killing, you gotta give me more than a first name, dude. What's this guy's name? Kyle? Fuck Kyle. There are some instances where you can avoid killing people, but it doesn't really have any consequences one way or another aside from tactics. And even then, killing people in this game is honestly just so fun and satisfying that I can't even pretend to feel bad about it. Many people have drawn comparisons with the Metal Gear series, like how in MGS4, if you choose to kill 100 enemies in a short span of time, you get a PTSD flashback to MGS1 and throw up.
You enjoy all the killing. That's why.
Then there's the sorrow, which is a goddamn experience. I remember when I first played this and slowly realized what I was seeing, I was like, I killed these guys. Now I feel bad. So yeah, that's how I feel on that front. But let's address the next thing. Abby. A lot of people do not like Abby. They do not find her to be sympathetic in any way. And frankly, I'm very conflicted with that point. You see, the reason Abby kills Joel in the first place is because Joel killed her father. Then she threatens Dina and Ellie's all like, no, she's pregnant. And Abby's like, good. 2 for 1. And the reason she said that is because Ellie just got done killing Abby's pregnant friend. So this makes sense, you know? As a generic F-tier YouTube rando, I don't really get why people look at this and can't at least somewhat sympathize with Abby, even in her viciousness, given all that has happened to her so far, especially when we're cool with Joel and Ellie killing 1 billion plus people because of the fucked up things that happened to them. As a scholar, however, I may have the answer. One of the things that I came across in my studies was something known as the structure of sympathy in Murray Smith's book, Engaging Characters. He suggests that sympathy with fictional characters has 3 elements: allegiance, alignment, and recognition. Last of Us is a video game, but it heavily employs cinematic elements to the point that many people call these games movies, so I believe it's entirely appropriate to apply these principles. Now, the 3 elements. Allegiance is when the player wants what the character wants. Alignment is how much screen time is spent with the character. And recognition is when the character is consistently recognizable from scene to scene. Their motives and mannerisms are still the same over time, or at least that any change in their attitude makes contextual sense given all that has happened. With this in mind, Last of Us 2 is a very weird beast because they want to create this conflicting turmoil. Both Ellie and Abby end up doing fucked up things unto each other, and the game wants to use this to create a moral dilemma. They want you to sympathize with both of these characters who are on opposite sides of a conflict so that no matter who wins, your heart loses. Drama. But there's a tiny little problem here. Alignment. The screen time. Ellie has a massive head start in terms of screen time. Not only is the first 45% of the game focused entirely on uninterrupted Ellie action, but she already had an entire game beforehand that focused on her and Joel, and she even got an additional DLC chapter. Now, most people playing Last of Us 2 will have played these beforehand, so they're going to have a predisposition to caring about Ellie way more than Abby, and it would take an inordinate amount of screen time on Abby's part to balance that out. And that indicates one of the game's biggest issues, the pacing. When you spend 25 hours playing as Ellie, it can't help but feel kinda retroactive when you choose this climactic moment halfway through the game to pull the rug out from under our feet with the Abby arc of the game. It tries to do a bunch of character development with Abby by showing her good times with her dad and showing us 1 billion times that she's terrified of heights, but she's still way behind Ellie. Now, I actually like Abby as a character in general, but compared to our alignment and allegiance with Ellie, her arc of the game can't help but feel like a dramatic sidestep to the rest of the story. The most obvious way to fix this problem would be to intermittently swap between Ellie and Abby's story, like Seattle Day 1 Ellie, then Seattle Day 1 Abby, Day 2 Ellie, Day 2 Abby, Day 3 Ellie, Day 3 Abby, then fight, in that order. Think about something like Game of Thrones. This is a story about all these different factions, worlds apart, who are all in conflict with each other. It's been a while since I've seen it, so if I fuck up some minute details, try to bear with me and see what I'm saying for the example's sake, and don't sweat the tiny details. An episode of Game of Thrones will cut back and forth between each of these factions, building up their motives, intentions, and histories. Like it'll spend 10 minutes on the Lannisters, then go halfway across the world to start setting up the Targaryens, then start establishing the Starks and whatnot. This is how Game of Thrones typically plays out. Now, let's say instead of that, the first 2 seasons were told entirely from the Lannisters' perspective, but then suddenly, the 3rd and 4th seasons were entirely from the perspective of the Targaryens / Khal Drogo / whatever. Again, it's been a while. You'd be sitting there like, wait, what about the Lannisters? You're just telling me now that these people have feelings too? It would fall apart, it would not work, and that's what I believe to be Last of Us 2's biggest mistake. Have you guys ever seen 13 Reasons Why? Of course you fucking haven't, that show sucks. But there's a character in there called Bryce. In the first 2 seasons of that show, Bryce is shown to be a fucking lunatic psychopath who rapes and assaults infinity plus other students. And there's even a section on the wiki about all the crimes he committed. But then in the 3rd season, out of nowhere, they start trying to make you feel bad for him by showing that his mom is distant and his grandpa's an asshole. And it's like, ooh, I bet you feel bad for hating him now. And it's like, what No, I don't. Fuck Bryce. This show is pretty funny, by the way, for all the wrong reasons. Now, don't get me wrong, Last of Us 2 is many magnitudes better than 13 Reasons Why, but I can't help but feel it's a somewhat similar situation. We're first introduced to Abby in this intro sequence where she ices Joel, and then for 25 hours, that's the only thing we know, and then it's all like, wait, you need to feel bad now, and at this part, that's gonna be a very hard sell. And even then, we already have way more sympathy with Ellie because we spent so much more time with her and Joel. We want their team to win at this point, which brings us to allegiance. In the beginning, we want what Ellie wants, revenge on Abby for killing Joel because he's fucking Joel. Even if Joel is a horrible, selfish fucker, we sympathize with him for the same reasons we sympathize with Ellie. We've already spent so much time with him, and his actions in the first game were entirely understandable. He stops them from killing Ellie for the cure because Ellie is the only thing that can fill the void in his life from when his daughter was shot 20-something years ago. Even if we disagree with his actions, there's still a degree of allegiance because by now, we love Ellie too, okay? I love that spunky little bitch who stole Bill's porno mags. What a champ. That's weird.
Why are these all stuck together?
Joel also achieves recognition in the first game because from the beginning to the end, he's super protective and he will throw the entire world under the bus to save his pack, and he totally did. It's entirely understandable that he would do that, even if it's a horrible thing to do. As an aside, many people expressed frustration with Joel in the second game for allowing Abby and the boys into the encampment and just telling them his name as being inconsistent with his character. I totally get what they're saying, but I think that's kinda debatable. He saw humans escaping a horde of runners and maybe he thought he was protecting potential allies. It's tricky, because even the most protective people on Earth are fallible and can make mistakes. And it could be possible that somehow his new role in this mini society, as well as just the amount of time that's passed since the first game, has changed his attitude somewhat. I don't know, it's kinda up in the air. Again, we can sympathize with Abby too, but given the dilemma, we're gonna sympathize more with Ellie because we know her. And I think a lot of people agree that the parts where you play as Ellie are the most interesting parts because you want to see how her character develops. There's even a moment where she's whistling to Dina's baby and I was like, oh shit, she's whistling! Cause remember in the first game where she was learning how to whistle the entire time?
Are you alright?
I'm trying to learn how to whistle.
Ooh, I'm Abby, I'm afraid of heights. Shut up, Abby! Ellie is whistling right now. The relationship between Ellie and Joel was easily the thing we wanted to see more of and exploring the questions that were still up in the air. Throughout the game, there are repeated flashbacks to Ellie growing up with Joel over 4 years, and slowly there's more and more tension as Ellie starts to ask more questions and slowly realizes the horrible truth about what Joel did, and how her immunity and her journey means nothing now because Joel wanted to have his second chance at being a father. In a world with nothing left, her immunity and the fireflies were a beacon of light that could have saved everyone, and Joel snuffed it out because he would have nothing without Ellie. And at the same time, Joel is just a huge part of Ellie's life, and it was fucking horrible to see her reaction to Joel's death. There's even a terrifying cutscene where she has a PTSD flashback to his death and can't do anything to help him. That was easily the most fucked up part of the game. It was so shocking because it comes when you least expect it, and again, it's fucking Ellie, okay? I care. And I suppose it's not hard to imagine Abby having similar experiences, but it's explored far deeply and more effectively with Ellie. But that's the thing, this game is about Ellie and Abby having their Joel moment, their equivalent to the moment from the first game where the person they care the most about is suddenly taken from them, radicalizing them into violent, vengeful killers. And I think you're supposed to be wondering how many more Joels you're creating by killing all these people. This even resonates ludo-narratively because Abby actually plays very similarly to the way Joel did in the first game. I don't know if that was intentional, but I've been shitting all over the game for 15 minutes at this point, so I'm gonna let them have this one. I personally think that's a bit of a milquetoast message, like you could really apply that to any video game where you kill people. But at the same time, getting me to care about all the people I'm killing is impossible because the sympathy structure just doesn't allow it. These are all complete strangers in a piece of fiction, just like Abby's dad was in the first game. He wasn't even a character, he was just some guy, and then they're like, actually, he's a person now. So you gotta feel bad. Now obviously that is very subjective. There are a ton of people out there who truly did feel horrible about this, I'm sure. In the name of subjectivity though, I think it's safe to say I definitely liked the first game far more. The first game not only had more stakes, but also clearer ones. You're going on a journey to potentially save the world and get life back to the way it was previously. There's a driving force, there's hope, there's light at the end of the tunnel, because fireflies glow in the dark. Get it? There's something to look forward to. With the second game, you know at the back of your mind that either Ellie kills Abby or Abby kills Ellie. Big picture, it doesn't really make that much of a difference either way because the world is lost at this point. No more fireflies, nothing. Then of course, it turns out that neither of them kills the other because Ellie decides at the last second not to kill Abby because one way or another it won't make a difference, blah blah blah, I don't know. I think the best explanation for Ellie's sudden decision not to kill Abby is because she was just beginning to forgive Joel for all that he did, but he died before she could really give him the chance that she wanted to. So the next best thing is to forgive Abby or something. I don't know, man. The motives behind this last-minute decision are very vague and ambiguous, and that's not automatically bad, but in any case, I don't think it really earned this moment as well as the first game earned its own crazy ending. Remember allegiance, we always know what Joel wants, and when he fucks over the fireflies to get it, it makes sense. But Ellie in this situation is such a conflicted and confused character that it's way harder to engage with her. Like, how do I know that she won't have another PTSD flashback and then go try kill Abby again? Especially now that Dina abandoned her because she chose to go settle the score with Abby, but then chose not to. There's so much pushing and pulling with Ellie's motives that in the end, she was honestly a more frustrating character than Abby was. Because when Abby buries the hatchet, she's done for good. She only fights Ellie at the end to protect Lev, and maybe that's the other thing. Like, to create more conflict, they made Ellie the instigator in a situation where the character you hated in the beginning is choosing pacifism to make you more conflicted. I don't know, man. By now I'm sure you're very frustrated with me because this video is all over the place, but that's how I feel about this game. I'm not sure how else I can approach it. And the most hilarious thing about all of this is that it made me realize just how polished the first game is and why I love it so much more. The Last of Us 1 felt extremely carefully crafted. It's very close to being a perfect story. If you remove one character or one beat from Last of Us 1, it doesn't work. Every single one of these moments and characters is important and they add something to the story. With Last of Us 2, such is not really the case. Where the first game earned every single moment, the second game just took every moment, whether it was earned or not. There are a lot of situations that just seem to happen and don't feel necessarily earned. Last of Us 1 was straightforward and powerful. Last of Us 2 is sprawling and chaotic, and on some level I'm sure that's intentional, but it can't help but feel like it's diluting the parts of the game that I actually care about, and anyone can say, yeah dude, that's the point, which it very well might be, but I'm allowed to not really like or care about the point, right? People hate Death Stranding because of its mundanity. The mundanity is half the point, but that doesn't mean they have to like it, you know what I mean? What about Jesse? I don't give a shit about Jesse. His purpose is to get Dina pregnant and then cry like a baby when Ellie cucks him with her lesbian charms. And then be a shitty substitute Joel sometimes. There's even a moment where you press triangle to give him a high five like she does with Joel in the first game, and it's like, fuck off dude, it's not working. Abby's friends, I don't give a shit about them. And she doesn't give a shit either. This guy Owen has a pregnant wife and Abby doesn't hesitate to get her fuck on with him after having a little fight. And I guess you could say that's the same thing Ellie did with Dina and Jesse because she fucked his girlfriend, and I don't know, if everyone's a piece of shit, that means the game is really deep, so yeah. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. So many things just happen in this game, and they don't feel like they need to happen. It feels like they were deliberately going for some kind of Streisand effect thing, like how many controversial or weird things can we put into this game to get it more attention? And I guess it worked, because here I am talking about it almost a year later. The game tries very hard to talk about a billion different issues like religious and political extremism and queer themes, and those kinds of things weren't entirely absent from the first game, like you had Bill, our gay icon of the month, and of course Ellie's long list of girlfriends, but it felt more cohesive in the first game somehow. Bill finding out his partner hanged himself to avoid turning into a clicker was brutal. In a world where everyone is just losing the people they love constantly, this added something. More fuel to the fire, more drama. This is what you're fighting for, so that shit like this doesn't happen anymore. But the way that second game discusses these things, it can feel like it's pulling you aside from the forward momentum of the story. There's a whole thing about how Lev was excommunicated from the Seraphites for being transgender and presenting as male, aspiring to be a soldier despite the leaders trying to force him into female roles. It is a timely and relevant theme in the real world, and I don't doubt that that would carry over in some capacity to the world of The Last of Us, but it ends up feeling more like a side story than something that contributes to the central themes of the game. Oh right, the fucking Seraphites. I didn't talk about the factions yet. There's all these factions at war with each other, but you can barely keep it straight in your head, like the Seraphites and the Washington Liberation Front and the Rattlers, who barely fucking matter at all, Montagues and the Braithwaites, and it's just like, what the fuck is happening? It almost reminds me of the first chapter of MGS4 with the PMCs and the rebels fighting each other and expecting you to use that chaos to sneak by, and there are actually a few gameplay moments in Last of Us 2 that use a similar technique. Gameplay-wise, that was cool as shit, but narratively, it ended up feeling discombobulating and frustrating to keep together, and by the end of the game, I wasn't really sure who was what, and what was where, and why am I here, and do I exist. So far, this video has been extremely critical and negative, but the truth is, I don't actually despise this game. The story does have flaws and many intensely frustrating decisions, but it is well carried by dialogue and acting, both of which are often brilliant. This game does have great moments wrapped up in the frustrating and chaotic taco shell of a plot. It tends to be very good in intermittent bursts. The honest to god truth is that they kinda kneecapped themselves with the decision to make a sequel in the first place. The original game was so airtight that it didn't really need a continuation to begin with, but then they made one anyway, for better or worse. Last of Us 2 is one of the most frustrating games I have ever played. It's not even horrible, it's just exhausting to think about, and the more I think about it, the more it pisses me off. It's such a bizarre case, it's so rare that something like this happens. And I think that's the game's biggest strength. I feel like I might still be talking about it years from now. Does that mean it's good? Does that mean it's a masterpiece? No. But it gave me a lot to think about, and that's an achievement on its own.